Hello, welcome once again to Blooming Mindfulness. Today, as promised, I'll be talking a little bit more about Anthuriums and really giving an intro to all those who would like to know about Anthuriums, what they are actually, how do people price them, what are we looking for in Anthurium, why are some Anthuriums so expensive. I'll also be showing some of the more interesting Anthuriums and what are some of my thoughts and consideration. As usual, these are my own thoughts based on my own experience as well as what I've researched on. Please feel free to disagree and of course comment and like and let me know about what are your thoughts, and we can all learn together as a community. So first thing first, what exactly is Anthuriums? So they are kind of aroids. They usually give off a very nice foliage. They can be shiny, they can be velvety, they can also be waxy. Alright, so let's get down to the first basic topic. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what exactly, or rather how does one actually go about pricing. Now, when it comes to Anthurium, if you ask me, I'm definitely no expert at it. I think I would need to maybe take another 5 years or even 10 years to even fully understand, because it is just such an interesting species of plants altogether. But generally, Anthuriums, right, when they are first found in the wild, they come as natural hybrids or they are as a pure form. So pure form, common ones, you would have things like your puppy, but even puppy, there are different forms of them, right? Because they are in the wild type, so there are different types of form. So even that alone, when people tell you that, oh, I have a puppy for sale, and then you're like, okay, so someone who is new, you go like, oh, so all puppy would look like this, like a certain type. But guess what? That's not entirely true. So something can be of a puppy, but they can have different wild type forms. Some have a narrower type of sinus, some have a wider type of sinus. Okay, let me just give you an example of what is a wide type of sinus. Okay, now what I have with me over here, okay, is an Anthurium. I'm going to tell you what is it first, because I want to talk a little bit more about it in a while. Okay, so this part over here is known as the sinus. Okay, the top part here, the ears of it, some people call it. So I would say that this has a wide sinus or a flat sinus. Okay, this part is the sinus, and then something like this over here. Let me reach for something that is okay. I would say that this over here has a very closed sinus. Now there are plants with no sinuses at all, or a fused sinus, something like a forgetii. This is obviously not one, but these are actually closer together. Okay, so another example that I have of a closed sinus would be, just a minute, let me reach for it. There are many plants with me now. Okay, this is another example. Okay, now, so these are the things that you need to know, that there are different shapes and different forms, but they can be of the same species, okay, or the same type of Anthuriums. So therefore, it is important to understand that when it comes to Anthurium, it is really about a general characterization of what a specific plant should look like. So nowadays, it's actually quite difficult to get a pure species. In fact, if you ask me, it is so much more difficult to get a pure type of Anthurium rather than a hybrid. In fact, more often than not, you hear some very fanciful names like Zara Michelle. What of earth is Zara Michelle? Well, it is basically a hybrid created by this particular very famous breeder, right? And so he names it Zara Michelle, but it's actually a hybrid. So then you go on, okay, so what are its parents, right? So that's the problem. The parents nowadays are quite difficult to find in pure form. And even if you find something that is of a so-called pure form, unless you're getting it from a very extremely reputable farm, for example, NSE, tropicals, okay, or Tazula plants, you really need that kind of guarantee that the lineage, the parentage is absolutely pure. It's almost impossible to say that what you're having is definitely pure unless you do a DNA test on it, given that they all look about the same. And mutations can happen over time. It can also reverse mutate. So if you ask me, when it comes to Anthurium, it is very important that you have a good understanding of what you are understanding in terms of its price point that you're paying and the kind of features that you want. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's give you some specific examples on Anthuriums and how I would actually pay for it. Okay, first things first. Now, most of the Anthuriums are talking about hybrids, so I will dive into it. Now, when it comes to hybrids, there are certain plants whereby it's only one of a kind. And that's where we really can use to differentiate the price point. So one of the most iconic hybrid in the history of Anthurium is the Delta Force, the one and only Anthurium Delta Force. So the Delta Force is a cross between the Clarinevium, Anthurium clarinevium, together with the Pedatoriadiatum. Sorry, it is a mouthful to pronounce. Okay, so this grower, okay, is from Ree Gardens. He actually has a lot of seeds of this cross between these two plants, and out of the entire, we're talking about hundreds and thousands, only one grew up to be the Delta Force. Okay, and this plant has been highly sought after for many years. In fact, it's only to the recent years, I think it was 2021, I could be wrong, it could be 2020, Ree Gardens has never sold this plant to anyone. In fact, the Delta Force was only used as a form of currency to trade for very rare plants, and that includes the very popular variegated gloriosum, just in case you didn't know. So yes, Ree Gardens did acquire a variegated gloriosum by trading the Delta Force for it. So I'm just going to show you, okay, this plant that I've shown you earlier, okay, was sold to me as a Delta Force hybrid. Okay, so what it meant was that because back then, this was like 1.5 years ago, I could not afford the real Delta Force. A cutting of a real Delta Force would have set me back maybe about 5,000 Singapore dollars, and that is how crazy it was just for one leaf cutting. And I'm not even sure about the price, because what I see online was overinflated prices of between $10,000 to $15,000. It was so difficult to get my hands on the real Delta Force. So the Delta Force basically has a very flat sinus, okay, and it's elongated and a very nice border. So what I have over here is basically a cross between the exact supposed allegedly pure species of Clarinevium and the Pedatoriadiatum, okay, the parents, the supposed parents between two. And out of it, the breeder picked the ones that is supposed to mimic the real Delta Force, and this cost me $230. And it was such a tiny plant back then. It was even smaller than this. It was ridiculous. Now looking back at the kind of price that I paid for. In fact, the breeder was assuring me that, oh, it looks beautiful, it's stunning, this batch. Mind you, this was actually, this is after 1.5 years of growing it. I mean, is it a beautiful plant? Yes, it is. It looks like a butterfly. I love it. Okay, but is it the Delta Force? Absolutely not. Because the Delta Force is almost impossible to replicate. Nobody has been able to do it, and that's why it's able to command such a high price for such a long time. So the only way that you can get a Delta Force, okay, or some fancy names now, is to get a cutting of the plant, a subset of the plant. No other way. Any other way, anybody claims that, hey, I've got a Delta Force from seed, it's fake. Because the growers, okay, from Ree Gardens has already confirmed, even the seed, a self-pollinated seed of the Delta Force, the offspring did not grow up to look anything like its parents. So the only way you're going to get it is you're going to need to actually get an exact cutting. But thankfully, I have here with me, yes, the original Delta Force. Look at it. Okay, look at how flat the sinus is. Okay, the beautiful foliage that we have here. Okay, the dark veining and the very prominent border. Okay, can you see the border of this leaf? It is crazy. It is really crazy, the Delta Force. So how I managed to actually get this was the Delta Force went into tissue culture, and I was able to acquire a specimen of this tissue culture. So you can see, right, the two plants actually look so different. In fact, all in all, before getting to this plant, I bought 4 other plants that claims to look like the Delta Force. Look like the Delta Force. None of them, except some EV sellers, claim that it was the Delta Force, because it wasn't. It was so starkly different. So this was actually from a tissue culture, so it really is so-called the real deal. However, do note that I have seen some tissue cultured Delta Force that grew up and they did not look like the original Delta Force. Now, why is that so? Firstly, the source of your tissue culture. For all you know, because the Delta Force is so expensive, the specimen that was used in the tissue culture process may not be the real Delta Force. That's one. I know that this most probably is the real one because it really looks exactly like how the Delta Force that Ree Gardens has. So I'm fortunate like that. 2, during the tissue culture process, the plants could actually have mutated and your Delta Force would not look the same. Okay, so enough about Delta Force. Let's look at other things. So, sorry, just to recap. So just because there's only one of that sort, a grower can actually choose to actually price it at a much higher price because you can only get it from cuttings and nowhere else. Okay, and then after that, size. Size is another factor that goes into justifying. So when you buy a plant, okay, I can tell you that there are so many hybrids out there. Some of them looks nice, some of them look not nice. What should we be looking out for? Now, when you buy something small, you are paying quite an affordable price for it, usually. Okay, because the true features of the plants has not been displayed, and that is actually the iffy part, and that's where I would like to caution everybody. Okay, so take a look at this plant that I have. Okay, now these are one of the earliest leaves that I have. Okay, when I bought this plant, I think the biggest leaf was really something like this, or like this one over here. I can't really remember, sorry. I think this was the max it was. I can't remember if this came up with me. But this one did not look like it was going to be a stunner. I can only judge the potential of this plant based on the breeder's reputation as well as what the parents might be. And guess what? Many of times the sellers will only give you the parents' plants. That means the mother and the father of the plant, and that's about it. They don't even have the offspring. How does the offspring look like? Because guess what? Every single seed is different. Every single batch is different. Certain types of combination, the seedlings do look very similar to each other. But in the case of the Delta Force, that was not the case. It could be from the same batch, but no, only one of the seedling of the entire same batch end up looking like the Delta Force. So that's where something will be very, very expensive. Okay, so when you buy a plant, it really just looks like this. You can't see anything. So what are the things that I will look up for? Firstly, I'll look up for its name. So this plant I have with me is a red crystal times black velvet. I paid, I think, about $80 for this when it was this size. None of the big leaves were there. Okay, and when it was sold to me, the seller was like, oh, it's beautiful, you know, it's blah blah blah, you know, you can say all you want. So to me back then, I'm like, I have no idea, and there was no picture of how the offspring. So I would imagine with red crystal, I should get some red, and I should get really dark leaves, which is, I'm lucky because that's what it really turned out to be. And look, even up to this point, the leaves were dark, but where's the red? I don't see any red, right? And it can be quite disappointing. And then look at this, look at how dark the leaves are. You're gonna have to trust me, I'm in bright natural sunlight, and look at how dark and velvety this is, right? And there you have it, the red. Isn't this just gorgeous with the muscles, the velvet, and the red? Okay, and then it came out this even bigger. This is still hardening. Look at this, look at the red veining on the back. Okay, so this is absolutely stunning. And then there is actually a red sinus over here. It's really gorgeous. Okay, so I paid 80. Now if I were to sell this as a cutting, now that's where the price is different, because I now have the true plant. I can show you, if I were to take a cutting of this plant and I sell it to you, this is how your plant would look like. You'll be impressed, right? This is where you should be paying more for a bigger for a plant that you actually know what you are dealing with. Okay, so if I'm going to sell this, probably one cutting could go easily for at least about 120 to about 150, depending on the size, maturity. But look at this. Would you pay 120 for this? I would, most certainly, because now I know that the offsprings would look like that from the subset of this plant. Okay, let me show you another example. I have with me, this is Hoffmani Eye times AOS. Okay, same thing. These are the things I'm getting. In fact, I'm getting like this kind of really small plants. Okay, and yes, they look damaged because during the earlier days, I was changing the environment. So Anthurium, they really do not like to have their environment changed. Yeah, so I am taking a risk when I'm doing this video, because now they are out at my filming place, right? And then look at this now, this stunner. Look at it. Alright, so I had no idea that it's going to turn out to be something so beautiful. This is a new leaf, it is still hardening, but look at how gorgeous it is. Okay, and then after that, you would also look at where the plant came from. Now, recently online there has been a lot of Zara Michelle being like sold. Okay, not throwing shade, but just stating the fact it is what it is. Okay, a lot of this Zara Michelle is Zara Michelle times Zara Michelle. Okay, I have no idea about what is the lineage of it, unless this person is a very reputable breeder. Think about it. For you to be a reputable breeder, first you need to basically get your specimens from the reputable dealers, right? And then they will give you the tags and everything else. So this person needs to prove that he's able to track. And usually the people who do that, they already know the owners, or they have close working relationship with big nurseries like Tazula and NSE. So they know, they can vouch for this person. Yes, this particular breeder XYZ, has actually gotten a mother plant from us, right? So then you know that whatever you're buying, it is what it is. Okay, and recently I have seen a lot of people buying Zara Michelle, and they're disappointed. It doesn't look like a Zara Michelle. Okay, that's because Zara Michelle times Zara Michelle may not turn out to be like the real original Zara Michelle, because the genes have been mutated. So the only way you can get something that looks like this, okay, is if you actually got it from the original dot block Zara Michelle. You have to get it from dot block with the tag and everything else. Okay, now the good news is Zara Michelle, from my understanding, is already in TC. So this, I have to be honest, is a TC Zara Michelle. Okay, so it does feature whatever a typical Zara Michelle should look like. And here's the thing, when I was selecting for this particular plant, it already had features that I liked. Okay, this was the leaf that determined. The red did not really come strongly, but now look at it. Look at the red sinus. Okay, I'm just going to put it closer. Just look at it. It does look like the original Zara Michelle because I bought it knowing that it's a TC, and I bought it from a company that is reputable for TC. Okay, and then you have the more okay, so how much did I pay for this? I paid $80 for this, a small one. These two leaves were not there when I bought it. Okay, just $80 for two tiny leaves, right? But I think it's still a good deal, and I get satisfaction watching it grow and knowing that, hey, it's doing well. Then you have like the common things, right? Like luxuriance. Okay, so how to select for luxuriance? Okay, don't let anyone else tell you, okay, a luxuriant is worth this much because it's like this and like this. I think when it comes to forms of Anthuriums, there is not one form that I can say is better than the other, but there are certain forms that are more highly sought after simply because they are not an in-between. They are either round, or if not, they are elongated. But at least they are in one group, if you understand what I'm saying. So, luxuriant is one of those, okay, that you know that it's quite popular, it's quite common, you know. What you should be looking for is you need to have all this nice muscle-like popping up kind of a feature. Alright, it has a high gloss to it, the leaves are firm, it's great, okay, and the shape of it is something that you like. So if you ask me, this is a little bit more of a preference kind of thing. So when I bought this, right, I saw that, hey, all the leaves, okay, the sinuses are quite close. I like this round form, okay, and it gives a pleasing aesthetic. Okay, I will choose this plant. I paid 80 something for this. You could probably get it for less nowadays, or a good specimen maybe slightly a bit more. This is the latest leaf. Look at how stunning. It is still hardening. I'm hoping for the sinus to close a little bit more, okay, but look at it. Even if it doesn't, it's a stunner, okay. Now let's talk about some interesting things, okay. Let's talk about no ID, right? So what exactly is no ID? No ID happens when you don't know what is the parents. You don't know because, you know, things just go crazy in a while and everything else, and then after that it turns out to be beautiful, and then you're wondering what on earth is this plant, and you don't know the ID. The great thing about no ID is they can name it whatever you want. You're the owner. In the whole wide world, there's only one plant. So if people want to buy it from you, okay, they will have to get a subset from you, from the plant, not a seedling or whatsoever. It needs to be the exact plant to be called that name. So I have this plant. Okay, when I bought it, it looked like this. Okay, I was just walking around. I don't know what was happening. Okay, I just saw these two leaves. I thought it was nice. It was in a nursery in Singapore. It was priced at $25. Okay, fine, I'll take my chances. It's relatively affordable. And then, okay, it started having the red sinus. Okay, and then this leaf came out. See the red sinus? That's what people typically want. They want that red sinus, okay, because it adds interest to the plant, you know, or for whatever aesthetic reason it is. And then I started noticing that, okay, it does look a little bit like the red spider. Now the red spider is a forgetty eye hybrid. I'm not saying that this is. I don't know what the parents are, but I think it looks really nice, okay, with its elongated form and its red sinus over here. So because I don't know what is it called, I can call it anything I want because I'm the owner. So I'll call these maybe red celestial, I don't know. And then, you know, from then on, people want to buy from me, it'll be red celestial. So how does the pricing go? Now, if one day I become a very famous influencer or I own a big nursery, you know, I'm so influential, I call this the red celestial, and you know, people go like, oh, it's a cutting from Chris, the red celestial. Then it'll be worth like maybe say $200, $300 per leaf, simply because the only person that has red celestial is me. But of course, it must be nice enough for people to agree with you that, hey, this is a really nice specimen. I am going to want a cutting of it. So if you all watch a lot of YouTube videos, you will know Kayliana. Okay, so for her, she has the mysterious duck boy. She just calls him, you know, duck boy, and then, you know, she does a cutting and it sells like crazy. Okay, so that's the great thing about no IDs. You get to name it whatever you want, you know. Then after that, let's go into something more interesting. Okay, variegated Anthuriums. Here you go. So right over here, okay, I have my variegated brownie eye. Very nice. Okay. And then I have my variegated. This is a very small specimen, not highly variegated but still variegated. This is my Pedata radiatum variegated. Okay, so this is still a young plant. And then, oh, this is one of my favorites. Oh, look at it. This is the pterodactyl. Okay, this is the pterodactyl variegated plant that I have. Very stunning variegation. It's a very big, very healthy pot. Okay, so when it comes to variegated plants, I generally would look out for colors and shape. That's about it, because they are really quite rare. This is variegated clarinovium. Okay, this poor leaf is going out already, but the new one is coming out. Okay, just to show it's really cute, the heart shape and everything else. Very nice variegation, this one also. And then after that, so what are the pricing of variegated Anthurium? Variegated Anthuriums nowadays, they have a wide range. Okay, and the reason why they have a wide range is because if you take a one leaf cutting, which is what I did for this small plants, firstly, you don't know if the plant will survive. Okay, secondly, it is always a risk because you don't know if the variegation will actually continue. It could very well revert on its next leaf. So when you buy something like that, you can expect about a 40% discount, 50, even 60% discount, because the person who sold you this probably doesn't even know if it will survive or how the variegation is going to be like. So for me, it is really a bit of a guess kind of thing. So I paid, I think, about $150 for this. Yeah, but this does not include shipping. Okay, and then this leaf just came out after such a long time. Okay, and so for this particular plant with low variegation, I paid $80. Yes, it was that affordable. I'm gonna be honest here, I do not gatekeep. It is $80. It is what it is. Okay, but of course, you do not get this kind of good deals all the time. You're really gonna camp for it and work for it, which I did. Okay. Before I go off, just want to show you a couple more interesting ones. I have with me here the Blue Puppy times Fort Sherman. Okay, so it's really nice. It's really dark. Oh, one more thing. When it's unfurling, I tend to like to mist it. I forgot to mist this one. This one was a little bit dry. Okay, and therefore it ripped when it was unfurling. It's a shame. Okay, but nevertheless, it will always start to grow a new one. Look at the back of the leaf. It is stunning. Okay, so last but not least, let's talk about care. Generally, these plants, they do better in very humid environment. They do not like dry environment. So the best place to keep them would be in the toilets. Okay, so if not, they tend to be a little bit more dry. Can it be kept at ambient temperatures in Singapore? ambient kind of like surrounding in the open? Actually, my answer to you is yes, but only for Anthuriums that are a little bit waxier to the touch. Okay, though these typically don't suffer as much. Okay, but if you've got velvety ones like this one over here, put it in the toilet. Yes, I would advise you put it in the toilet. If you have a cabinet, great for you, but understanding is cabinet sometimes they can run into airflow issues, and then that's where you get mold and fungi and everything else. But the toilet seems fine. Just look at this. I just have to show you one more time. It's just gorgeous. And yeah, and this is also one more other thing that I want to show you. Okay, what media do I use to grow my Anthuriums in? So tree fern bark is actually quite good. Many people have said that it's great, but I've not tried it personally. But people who said it was very messy and it dries too fast. That's my understanding. So for me, I put them into semi-hydro. You don't have to. They should work fine in aeroid mix. I mean, just look at these. These are all grown in aeroid mix. I don't know if you can see the roots. Okay, they are doing fine. They are happy. But if you ask me, one of it that I really like would actually be stratum. Just take a look at it. Okay, the stratum is amazing, right? Okay, they've got lots of roots. You know, just let me give you another example. Just take a look at these thick roots. These thick roots. Okay, stratum. All right. So once again, thank you very much for spending your time with me. If you've got any comments, let me know. If you'd like to see any other videos, let me know once again. Alright, before I go, perhaps a summary would be great. Okay, so firstly, pricing of Anthurium depends on the species, okay, depends on the hybrid type, depends on the size of it, the maturity of it, simply because you can see how it looks like. If you get a younger plant, from seeds especially, you probably would not know what is the potential of it, and people are just trying to get rid of their seedlings as soon as possible. And believe it or not, same seeds from the same batch may not look like the same to each other. Okay, think of it like as in real life. Just because the parents are the same, they may not look the same, right? Okay, even twins, there are non-identical twins, and that can happen, and because of that, the price could differ very greatly, especially when the plant has grown up. Once it's grown up, it's a different story. You can see it again. Next, naming of plant depends on who names it, and if it's a one kind of thing. If it's a one kind of thing by someone who's very reputable, famous influencer, okay, it's really, everybody agrees that it's gorgeous, think of it as an art piece, yes, you can charge more for it. But make sure you really get it from the original source, okay? Care of it, stratum is my number one, if not semi-hydro. Alright, thank you so much for your time. All the best.